Hi, my name's Ed Cuozzo. I play in a band called University Drive, and this is a song off our new record, Clear, called Clear. Out of control, I don't use anything. I just wish I could keep some things to myself. I am a no. I could keep some things to myself. I'm in control. I am clean as can be. I just wish I could do something for my health. But when I'm alone, I don't know what I see. I just wish I could see anyone but myself. Bits of what I thought I would become. Void of what I thought I was. Now envy takes the promise I forgot.
Welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast. We're coming to you live from Cole Creative in downtown Wilkes-Barre. I'm Rich Howells. I'm the founder and editor of NEPA Scene.
And I'm John Popko from Alt 92.1 and the host of Alt Natives on Alt 92.1 on Saturday nights at 9 o'clock.
And tonight we are here with Ed and Steve from University Drive, a Scranton alternative rock band who has a show coming up this Saturday at Stage West. It's their album release show. So we're going to be talking about the new album and that show in particular, and what the band has been up to the last few years. The University Drive was actually our first guest ever on this version of the podcast. So we have a lot of catching up to do. It's been since 2017 was when we shot that.
Yes.
So
yeah.
It's been a while. We've gone through some changes here. I'm sure you've gone through some changes since then too. So
Too many.
Yeah. Some good ones, some bad
Some bad
ones.
ones, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So
life.
we're definitely going to get into it. But we want to hear your questions and comments. Anything that you want to add to our conversation, we would love to hear it. Leave those down below. If you're watching on Facebook Live right now, please, your questions and comments make the night so much more fun. And it's a Friday night, so you know before you go out and hit the town or whatever, nobody goes out until like 9 or 10 anymore. So you got some time to hang out with us and then chat. So
Get wasted later. Get wasted later.
So late.
Totally.
Think about like 9 or 10. It's so late.
oh, I know, right? as you get older, it's like, oh, geez, like screw that. I want to be in bed by like 11 o'clock at the latest.
At least on my couch.
Yeah.
Watching Netflix.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's definitely definitely different than
Or
when
being
we
out
started
at Beer
doing
Boys.
this stuff.
You know, we should be at, Beer Boys is a good place to go to.
That's true. And speaking of which,
Oh.
it just so happens that they sponsor us.
Weird.
And give us these wonderful crowlers to drink each week.
They're
So
huge.
They are gigantic.
Yeah.
We didn't have these when we first started.
No,
So
no.
you missed out on that.
I missed
but now,
out.
Now you get to try it.
I'm
Thanks for
excited.
bringing me this time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you've been in the band since the very beginning.
Not quite the beginning.
But pretty close, too.
But close. I got
Pretty
in there
close.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
you've been
made
in there
him
a lot.
accept me early.
I don't think I realized that, or like I just feel like you're in every band.
Yeah.
He's like him and AJ Jump are like
Right.
just if it's not Steve, it's AJ.
Yeah. Well, that's why John's not here, because he's in 100 different
Right.
bands.
Yeah.
So, you
It's
know.
very, very incestuous.
Yeah.
music scene.
Yeah, you were just going through like the whole family tree before
It's-
we started of everyone who's swapping with who tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
So you guys were Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones.
Apparently,
I don't get that reference.
I don't understand
I don't
either,
watch it
but
either.
I don't want to ruin
Oh.
it for anybody
Don't
else.
watch it.
I don't
Oh,
know.
there's nothing to there's just a lot of incest in there.
Is it just a lot of-
Oh,
Yeah.
literal.
Yes, actual incest.
I just remember, you ever see the South Park where Butters is just like, all I keep seeing are a ton of wieners. On it." that's like all they're like, no, you need to keep watching. And he's just like, I don't know, just a lot of wieners everywhere. So, I don't,
There's some boobs there
there's
too.
some,
Yeah, you know,
I
there's-
gotta watch it.
It's HBO. So,
Even
you
that
know.
can't get me in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch probably the whole thing when it's over. I've only caught little bits and pieces here and there.
Never watched a minute.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Never saw.
I watched the
Any of it.
the very first episode. I couldn't make it through. I just couldn't make it through the episode. No offense to anybody,
Yeah.
huge fans. I think I just saw it on like the wrong day.
Right.
You know, like I was like too tired. I was like, I don't know
Your
what.
car's on fire outside right now.
Yeah.
That's how I was with The Office, though. I had never got
Right.
into The
Yeah.
Office when it first came out, and I still have not. I've seen a couple here and there, but never.
Same.
Now I love The Office though, and I was just like that.
Yeah, I don't think my mind at 22 or whatever age I was ready for that kind of stuff. Yet.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
think
love the original one.
I never saw the original
I'm
one.
a big fan of the original.
Really?
Yeah,
it's
see,
awesome.
I prefer British humor too.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that version a lot more
Yeah.
than what I've seen. I've only seen a few episodes of the American version, but nothing really like kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
And you know, I always wondered how long is this documentary that they're making?
Yeah.
Like, the whole
Right.
premise of it, of why they're talking to a camera.
I
And it's
never
like,
even thought
holy
about
shit,
that.
it went on for like 8 or 9 seasons. Like, this movie is it's be the longest movie they've ever made about people working in an office. You know?
It's longer than the documentaries they're making fun of.
Yeah.
It's like implausibly long.
That's funny.
So what did Beer Boys provide us with tonight? I didn't even get to look at them yet.
Golden Road Mango Cart, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah, that is good.
And then I think it's a little ode to Cinco de Mayo coming up. A Corona Premier and Dos Equis Special Lager.
Oh,
Should that be especial?
Muy bien.
Special?
Me gusta.
Yeah.
So what are we starting with then?
I don't know. What are you guys feeling like?
It's you pick, Johnny. You're the man. You're the man. You pick. I don't know anything about beer, so this is why I just don't want to responsibility.
You don't want to be responsible.
Yeah.
We'll do the
Choosing.
the Corona.
You want to start with the Crow? All right.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Well, they have a half-price happy hour every night of the week, 8 till midnight on Fridays and Saturdays, 9 to 11 every other night of the week. So stop in for their wide selection. And DJ Rich Steele is there tonight for Flashback Friday, playing all your favorite old school dance hits from the 90s and early 2000s. And their entertainment is always never a cover, which is awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
While we're at it, while we're in a pluggy mood, let's talk about the V Spot, one of the most popular bars in northeastern Pennsylvania with live entertainment every night of the week. This week they have New Era playing new metal songs from the 90s and early 2000s tonight. Lightweight is playing pop and party tunes on Saturday. DJ Huff is hosting karaoke on Sunday. And our NEPA Scene Rising Talent Open Mic is back on Tuesday nights. And we're already at the halfway point this coming week.
Really?
So, yeah, we'll already be 6 weeks in this coming Tuesday. So, and this season's been really great because each person that's won is completely different than the last person. So it's a wide variety of different people. Comedy, music, magic. We had a magician come in who's very funny.
That's awesome.
So there's plenty of variety. So if you have a talent and you're interested in coming down, please do. You don't even have to participate in the contest part of it. You could just come and meet people. That's an important thing too. We met a new band called the Bandana Brothers this last 2 weeks ago.
That's an awesome name.
It is.
Just
It's a
wanna
great
say
name.
Bandana Brothers.
And they're super nice guys. They're from the Pocono area, so it took them a little bit to get down there, and they thought it was worth the drive, and they seem to be really
You got some pull,
pushing
brother.
and stuff. Yeah, we've gotten people from New York and Jersey before too.
Wow.
You
Couple
got
people
people
driving a
from
couple hours.
Jamaica, dude.
We did. We actually had a winner from Jamaica.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
That's
I mean, you're
really
Yeah,
funny.
like actually, like they're from Jamaica.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really funny.
And they were living maybe within an hour of here or so, and they just happened to see it online and stopped in. They didn't even know it was a competition.
Wow.
They just came and they
Awesome.
won that night, and then they won the finals. So it's always a cool little event.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing, dude. This is good, by the way.
Yeah, it's not bad. I'm not usually a Corona guy, but this is a little bit different than their normal.
It's a premiere.
Premier Corona.
Premiere Corona.
Well, thank you to Beer Boys,
That's right.
Yes.
and thank you to the
Gracias.
V Spot
Thank
for hooking us up as well. So let's get started. Well, the last time we did this was the first interview that we ever did together as a group. And we didn't really get into like your origins as a musician and stuff. We kind of skipped over that, went right into the band, and just kind of focused on that most of the time. So this might be a good time for both of you guys.
Yeah.
How did you first get into music?
Well, I kind of had like two times where I like got into music and I fell out of music and I got into music and then I'm still here, if that makes any sense. Like I was really young and there was this guy that lived next door to my grandparents and he would sit on his porch and play guitar. And so I asked him to give me guitar lessons, and all I cared about was like Motley Crue and Metallica, and I just loved those bands when I was a kid.
Oh, man.
And
I can't even picture that now.
I know, right? It's really funny. I think I was just attracted. It sounds so stupid, but just like the videos looked so cool, and like
Yeah, no,
like
totally.
Kiss and all, just like the
Sure.
theatrics of all of it. As a kid, I just thought they looked like superheroes or something.
Right.
But anyways, the guy living next door, he had an acoustic, and I said I wanted to learn, and he taught me some stuff, and then I don't know what happened, but I kind of just fell completely out of it for years. Then I kind of restarted at Gallucci Music and stopped again, but then Brian, my friend Brian Arrigo, my very, very good friend, he was the original drummer of Melded. We were in high school together, and I was just kind of getting into listening to bands, and he was like, here, you need to listen to, have you ever listened to Nevermind? Nirvana's Nevermind? No, all I knew was like the Hives and like crappy, I love the Hives, but crappy other stuff.
Yeah.
And I took that home and like fell in love. In specific, he showed me a video of them playing Breed live at the Paramount. You know what video I'm talking about? And it's like the most chaotic, like not tight but beautiful performance ever. and it literally like blew my mind and changed my life. So since that performance, I have just been like stuck in music. So that's pretty much where I started. Yeah. How about you, Steve?
I think it was just like kind of running into my brother's records, and then that got me, interested, and then running into my brother's guitar, picked up a guitar, started noodling around with that, and then, I had a buddy who played drums and was nice enough to like leave his stuff at my house, at my parents' house, and then that left me some time where I was able to start tinkering around with those. And for me, it was Kiss early on was a big one, like as it is for everybody, I think, and whether people like to admit that or not.
Kiss is awesome. Kiss is awesome.
I love them.
Yeah.
The old original stuff is phenomenal. It's still awesome to listen to. It stands up. But yeah, Kiss, there was a period where if it wasn't basically Kiss, Black Sabbath, Metallica, Led Zeppelin, I wasn't listening to it.
Okay.
And then I got wise to open up my palette to other things.
Yeah.
There's a lot more out there. But yeah, so I've just kind of been, trying to get better at guitar and drums along the way.
Well, it's funny because a lot of guys who are like metal guys,
Yeah.
and like hardcore guys, they like shit on everything else. But if you talk to the actual bands, they're like, oh yeah, we listen to everything.
Yeah.
Like our influences are all over the
Yeah.
place. Like they might play the harder music, but their influences are very different and not
Yeah.
what you would expect at all.
Sure.
Most of the friends the close friends I have, my one friend in specific, his name is Mark. I haven't seen him in so many years, but he's like one of the most amazing metal guitarists like you can ever see. But if you talk to him about music, he loves like City and Color and like very like beautiful, dreamy guitar stuff, like just to listen to. He likes the crazy stuff too.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
he's somebody who he would listen to the Beatles, or he would listen to, I don't know, Pantera or anything. There's no. I just. How could you not be like that once you're past a certain point? I don't
Right.
understand. I literally today listened to Color Revolt, Eminem's Kamikaze record in full, and then Julia Jacquelin's record Crushing. Like, just I'm all over the fucking place. Like I literally love absolutely everything. So
Well, that's the way it should be. If you close your mind off to that stuff
Yeah.
too early and you don't give it a chance, it's like you're missing out on so much.
you're missing out, and that's how you develop the wrong headspace. You kind of get into that elitist,
Yes.
which is not like doesn't help anybody.
No.
You know,
It's,
I mean?
yeah, and especially if you're in a band too, like
Big
even
time.
worse.
Big time, absolutely.
Well, the last time we talked, you guys had only done a couple of shows at that point as University Drive. Now you've had a few years with the band. So how do you view the project a little bit differently now than when you first started?
I do, because at the time when I first started, I didn't even know if my intentions were for it to ever really be an actual band. Like originally, when I just went into the studio, all I wanted to do, I didn't even want to make an album necessarily. I just wanted to go and record a bunch of stuff and pretend I was Dave Grohl, essentially. Just make the first Foo Fighters record that works in my brain. It's something I always wanted to do because I'm a huge fan. But when I got done with it, I loved the stuff that I made and put a band together, blah, 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 blah. But in my head, and the way it was working at that point when we talked, it was just people coming in and out. Like, we had two drummers before Steve. We had Billy Garrity and Matt Kester play, who are both phenomenal, outstanding drummers.
Except Matt Kester, he's no good.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah.
They're
Awesome.
those guys are too good. Like, they're so good, man. But we've had so many people coming in and out. In my head, I just thought, well, it's probably never gonna be a real band,
Yeah.
Like, the only person who I was pretty sure would stick by my side was John. I just thought, just because he was so into it from, like, even before we even decided we were going to do anything with it, because we always wanted to play music together. So I always felt like John was like, okay, well, the band it'll be me and John versus the world, kind of,
Right.
And then we played our first show, and I met Steve. Steve was our sound guy for that show. And we just kind of stayed in contact.
Was it the AFA show?
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
first show.
I
But we
remember
didn't know each other or anything
No.
like that up until then. A mutual friend, Dave, introduced us to each other, and we just hit it off so big time. And he could play the drums like a monster, so that made it's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth,
Baby.
So, it just seemed like a no-brainer, and you know, there's been members that were in who are no longer in. Like Doug was in the band for a long time, and now he's playing with James Barrett. Mike Flaherty was in the band. Now he's playing in his project Shared Light, which is awesome. And now we have Angelo playing guitar, and we have Scott. And honestly, man, like it just now for the first time really feels like, and that's not a knock on the other time.
Sure.
It just feels more like a band now. Where before it felt like, I don't know, like I should have been handing checks out, maybe. You know what I mean? I don't have the money to hand any checks out,
Right.
but it feels more like just friends hanging out, and we get to play music too.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really cool now.
Now, is that very different than your experience with your previous bands? Because I'm sure that people know you from A Social State and from Melded and stuff like that. How is this experience in comparison to?
This honestly has been super easy going. You know, like there's no. I feel like this. I should knock on wood, but
Right.
But there is literally no drama. There's no issues. Like it's just we get together and we just laugh. Like we just laugh and laugh and laugh. Where Social State was together for so long. We were together for almost 8 years, maybe even longer than that. And it doesn't matter who you are, but if you keep slamming your head against the same door trying to break through it, with a band or a project or something, and it's maybe isn't working the way you want it to, it could become. It does. Even this band could become. There could be sour things eventually.
Sure.
That being said, those are the best times of my life were in that band, no question.
Sure.
But the biggest differences are just. I think everybody in this project, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like everybody understands heavily that what I'm shooting for with the songs. More, they're a little darker in nature, a little more chaotic and a little weirder, where before I think the other members understood what I was trying to do, but would, as opposed to us unifying, seeing that's where we're going.
Right.
I think everybody would be like, I see that's where you're going, but I really like it over here. And to no fault of their own, I think it made the songs better, to be honest. But those are the differences,
And I'm sure some of that might too come from age or maturity or things like that too. You do this kind of stuff for so long, you get better at it, and you figure out, okay, this is what works and what doesn't. So
we grew up
this is what
together,
we wanna
man.
do.
I never think about it. I don't think about it very often, but when we talk, when I get, have to do these things, and start thinking about it, we got together, I was almost 22 or 23, I was a kid, so we were all kind of figured everything out together, for sure.
You just talked to Ed on your show.
Yeah, I could take a nap, I guess.
Well,
I
I
would
purposely I listened to your show, and I listened to the show that we did back in 2017,
Yeah.
so that I wouldn't tread too much of the same ground and try to repeat a lot of the same
Well,
stuff.
no one listens to my show, so we can probably revisit that.
Oh no, people definitely listen to
okay.
the show, man. People like being able to actually hear new, relevant local
Absolutely.
music on the
Yeah.
radio. Even just listening to that episode, I was like, yeah, this is a great mix, and it's got all the stuff that is interesting that's going on at the moment.
Cool.
you
Yeah.
know?
Man, it's awesome,
sure.
dude.
That's
and
the
a great
goal.
thing.
Yeah.
That's the goal. I started I don't want to say programming the show myself, but picking the songs and the kind of the flow of it recently. So
Oh, it's awesome.
It's great.
thank you. Yeah,
Really
I love
good.
it.
Yeah.
I love doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but why are we talking about me?
Well, I was going to say I didn't want to tread too much of the same ground, but you talked about this new album. Clear is a very emotional album, and inspired by the passing of your mother, and so. How do you feel about kind of putting your grief out there in public? Is that different from previous albums? Because obviously you're going to talk about your feelings and your emotions and stuff in your music. That's a given. But this is such a personal thing, and it's such a completely different thing than other things that you've experienced. So can you maybe talk about how that album is very different?
Yeah, I mean, well, just to go back to the first record, like that was, I was going through other shit during that time, the on-off reset record, but
Right.
something like this just like flips your whole reality upside down, like and anybody, I mean, everybody has to go through it at some point or some version of it, but I wasn't even necessarily comfortable writing the stuff in the very beginning, I didn't want it. I've always, I think we talked about it on your show, but I've always kind of written or wrote music as a form of therapy. I think most musicians or most songwriters do that, even if they don't realize they're doing it, they do it, and I think initially I even went in with no intentions of people even hearing these songs, but the more I thought about it and the more I worked on them, the more I enjoyed the songs, just personally. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And what's it called? The more I just no, you're good. The more I just enjoyed the songs, and I just thought it would be cool if I could be, if not me, but if the music could be helpful in a way that I wished I was able to have, like that certain music when I was going through everything. When everything kind of happened, and I feel weird throwing it out there. I feel very weird. I feel very nervous that people will misunderstand my reasoning for doing it,
Right.
But this is the biggest reason. When I was going through everything in the actually at the hospital and shit, like all I wanted, I kept searching for music because that's the only thing I really know to relate to when I'm going through some sort of catastrophe, or something to get me through it. And I just couldn't find anything that really was speaking what I was going through. I could find certain songs that maybe seemed random enough to where I could place my, you know what I'm saying? Like I couldn't find anything to really identify with. So my goal when I was writing everything was I wanted to make a record for if anyone ever goes through this, that maybe if they put it on, it would hit all the things that I was looking for. And that maybe it could allow them to dwell in it, because I'll tell you what, I know a lot of people will say, well, you shouldn't listen to sad music when you're sad, or you shouldn't listen to, it's going to make you down. And really for me, I like getting through bad things. I need to kind of dwell in that headspace.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Whenever I was going through breakups or stuff when I was a kid, I needed to listen to Pinkerton. Weezer's Pinkerton. I needed to, I needed to, that's exactly how I feel, So that was my goal. I don't know if anybody will use it for that, but I hope that they could. And outside of that, I think there's, musically at least, some things to enjoy from just a listening perspective, though.
Sure.
So that's kind of my intention behind it,
Now, how about you coming into this? What are you putting into there without trying to step on toes, so to speak, or to
Sure.
add your own thing, but also work with the concept here?
Sure. I think from the first time I heard Ed's stuff for University Drive was Only in the Way, and a mutual friend of ours shared it with me, and I was just like blown away immediately, and I was like, who's playing drums specifically? I wanted to know who was playing drums, and he texted me right back. He goes, he played everything, and I'm like, okay, connect me with this dude. And I was like, all in from there. And so I think it's partially because I think we're a lot alike in terms of drumming and influences and
Big time.
drumming influences, specifically. But I think being that we're both growl nuts, we both kind of gravitate toward doing a lot of the same things.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're
Same fill type ideas.
Cut
and
from the
stuff.
same cloth in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. So it kind of, it's easy to set in. And in terms of drumming, it's really good to have the singer, writer of the band also be a drummer who can say, in a very direct, easy to understand way, let's try this. Okay. And then we try it out. So, it's been fun to become a part of the band and find my place. And every once in a while, I'll sneak in a little extra Bonham flair.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
that might not have come from Ed if he were to have played the drums. But
Summerland, the
yeah.
his little bottomy kick part.
So, but yeah, I would say it's been it's been fun and easy, and I think that's part of what makes it so enjoyable. But I think it has a lot to do from, just having a lot of the same influences, and
Big time.
out of the gate just kind of, coming from the same mindset in terms of what do the drums need to do for these songs, for this band, and, having a lot of the same influences there.
That's a big part of it, like just the fact that he and I aren't battling each other.
Right.
Because I've experienced that in other bands or just, other little projects where people don't realize that the focus is the song, and it's not really about ego, and it's not about showing what you can do. It's how do we get the message of how do we get the message sonically across, and how do we express everything properly through parts of music, through drum parts and through guitar parts and vocal parts. It's not about the show. Does that make any sense? Do you know what I'm saying? It's not about it's about it coming off the right way.
Was it hard for you? I know when we talked, you said the part that you liked about doing it yourself was you had control. So was it hard for you on such a emotional album? Was it hard for you to allow someone else to play different parts and not be like, I would have done that differently? Or,
honestly, with this stuff, not so much. It was, I think there were times where, like, the one real nice thing about the band now is it's super collaborative. Like, it's not like, Steve didn't play the drum part, and I'm gonna go talk to John about how Steve didn't play the drum part.
It was supposed to go
Exactly.
Come on.
No, it's literally, could you try it like this?
Yeah.
And then he'll try it like that. I go, it's better the way he did it. So that was essentially what it was for however many months we were just in a rehearsal space working it out, So it's super easy with these people. And maybe with other people it wouldn't be, or maybe it would be. I don't know. But this is, it was super easy. And there's still, there are a couple songs on the record, like very few that I just played, or I played drums on a certain, and I don't kind of want to give it away for people who might be interested to find out who did what. I just like shit like that. But it wasn't a control thing. It was more so just, having fun. So, yeah.
Well, we talked about this. I'm sure you guys saw the premiere on our site of the album, and we did a premiere of one of the songs and stuff too. So we've had some interviews, little interviews about this stuff. But you recorded a bunch of friends and fans and stuff recorded on their own, or came in and recorded their experiences dealing with loss and grief and stuff like that. And that really kind of glues the whole thing together. I'm a person who listens to an album the whole way through. I don't like listening to bits and pieces of stuff.
I can't stand doing that.
Yeah. So this speaks to me in that sense, because it's like this is an experience album. You have to listen to it from beginning to end. One track goes into the next.
It's not about singles. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very much so. And that and even the songs themselves. There are ones you could say, okay, this is a single, but I think it just fits better. It makes more sense because it's kind of telling us a story and that kind of thing. So is that how you kind of structured it in terms of writing the songs and everything?
Yeah, and originally it was just supposed to be 8 songs. It was just going to be an 8-song EP, and then the more we got into it, it just felt like, well, these 8 songs deserve a couple more songs. Like it seemed like it shouldn't have been just a little EP, They felt, at least to me, they felt bigger.
I remember watching that list grow longer.
Yeah, because we had it on the whiteboard. Yeah.
We're making a full-length record, and he just doesn't know it yet.
That's literally what
it's
happened.
pretty much growing. We're watching it grow.
And it's funny because I kind of got in my own way with that, because I was like, we're doing 8 songs.
Yeah.
We're doing an EP. Yeah. It's definitely going to be, we're going to have 10, but just so we can make the 8.
There might be some little extra things, maybe in between.
Maybe it'll be 11,
I don't know,
and then now we have a 13-song record. But as things went on, and as I would almost like hear a finished song and then be inspired and write another one, and slowly like the order would start presenting itself to me of how the songs should go and how they should go into each other. But the voices, that I just thought, I was listening to a lot of albums that had things like that, a lot of Pink Floyd, a lot of Brand New, a lot of As Cities Burn, bands that just have things like that in their albums. But
Right.
I just thought it would be, I never really heard a record where it was almost more of a focus than the music, you know, which is interesting to me because we wrote the music first and added those things. They were secondary elements, but to me now they feel like almost like the focus, you know, like the music supports those things. So
Did hearing the different stories and experiences of people, did that affect how you were doing it, or maybe, you know, give you a different perspective than you had going into these songs?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even really know what I was looking for.
Right.
You know, like when I did it, when I put it out there that I wanted people to kind of answer these questions that I had and send me their answers, I didn't even really know what I was looking for. I just know this all sounds so pretentious, but I just know that what I wanted to feel like I felt, and I wanted to feel like almost like what it sounds like in my head when I'm alone and I'm thinking about all this shit, you know?
Right.
And there's a song on there, it's not even a song, it's just an interlude, it's called Some Kind of Energy. And to me, that track expresses my feelings about everything. And I think universally could kind of explain it too, you know? Like, it's just a sea of thoughts and a sea of just so many questions about why things have to happen, if there is anything, or if we're just here for no reason.
Right.
So I didn't have any real perspective going in. I just know that I wanted it to feel a certain way. And when I got everybody's voice clips, like, I was able to kind of figure out how to make it feel a certain way. But it was them, you know, they did it. So
I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, but did hearing those voices and hearing, you know, people who also were going through the same thing you had gone through or something different, did that almost feel for you like, I don't want to say comforting because that's kind of morbid, but kind of like you just felt like you weren't alone, like everyone else is going through a bunch of shit. I mean, I was one of those voices. It was really cool.
Yeah, and yours is a great part, you know, everybody's was great. It's like half and half, you know, like it was half super comforting to hear, like, oh, a lot of these people are my friends, a lot of these people are good acquaintances, a lot of them I don't even know, a lot of those people I don't even know who they are really, you know, and it was comforting to hear that thank you very much, that I'm not the only one. And obviously I'm not the only one, I don't mean that to sound that way,
Sure.
But it was comforting to feel not so alone, but also, and I said this on your show, and I think I've said it in most of the little interviews I've done, it just was really hard going through all that stuff at that specific time.
Sure.
And just hearing, because it's almost like I just didn't really, anytime somebody would say, oh, my friend passed or my dad passed or something, like I would say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. But I couldn't properly understand what they were going through. Now I understand. So now all those stories, had I heard those stories prior, I don't know if I would have had the same effect, because every story I heard, I just felt so much empathy for everybody. You know, I still do. Even just thinking about the record, I feel so much empathy for those people. But yes, comforting, and also incredibly hard. It was like, I told Chelsea every day I would come home from work and I would go straight upstairs in our little music room. I'd put on headphones and go into the little program I was using, and I would throw every one of those tracks into the songs, try to figure it out. And I would tell her it was like living in Death World, because it was just like from 5 o'clock till like 1 in the morning. I would just be listening to these like stories, you know.
Yeah.
And so, overall process, super gratifying, super therapeutic. I think it came out beautiful with the people's voices in specific. Going through it was really tough, though, definitely. So,
How was that for you to record your story? Yours was about your dad.
Mm-hmm.
So to have to tell somebody something that personal, to answer questions that are pretty personal, knowing that at least some of it is going to be out there, you know.
Honestly, when I was doing it, I was in my room by myself, and I was just kind of like, I was alone, and I didn't even think about Ed and what he was going to do with it. I knew he'd gone through something very similar to me, so I was happy to to contribute to whatever he was going to do with it, because I told you before too, like, when that happened, there was nothing anyone could say to me that was going to make me feel better. Just nothing. A year prior to that, my best friend's father passed, and I didn't know what to say to him, because there is nothing to help make someone feel better. You just be there and, a shoulder to cry on or whatever. So, I mean, for me to do that, it was cool. I mean, there's not a lot of times you sit down and kind of think about the questions that he had asked, because they were deep, and there were definitely the things you had to think about. And I think I told you, sorry it took so long to get back to you, but the questions were so deep. I didn't want to just be like, yeah, this and this and this and this.
Right,
this.
right.
I wanted to kind of take a moment and address the ones that I wanted to answer, and give you what you needed. So
What's cool is, and this is something I could say about every single person that sent one, yours included, is I wanted that point where people, like, you could tell, okay, that they hit their phone, they're recording, and they know they're recording themselves, but there's a point, like a minute in, where they just forget that they're recording, and they start going on, like they're really, internalizing and having like this dialogue with themselves about, like you did, like at one point you're like, you can kind of tell you're aware you're recording, but then it's like you're gone. Same thing with my buddy Sean, like first couple minutes, he's gone, like he's in that world, and it's so authentic and it's so real.
That's what's awesome. You
And
can hear that.
And
You can totally
that
hear
to
that.
me was my goal. Is I didn't want. It would have been super easy to just be like, here's some questions, and just answer them and just take the first couple minutes, like or very direct, simple questions. But I think the reason even that I asked those was because I wanted people to kind of, and I don't want to say spin out, but like to kind of take them a little further, for them to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole to where they got somewhere that was truly authentic. Because I wasn't going to put anything on the record that didn't feel as authentic as the shit that I was dealing with. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, I love yours, It's all of it's super tragic, and I don't mean this to all be such a downer,
No, it's...
But it's, I think, what everybody contributed. That's what makes the record.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no question. Like, the songs I'm really proud of, but I'm, like, what your guys' voices do to that record, it does something that I could never do.
That was an idea that grew too, and that was another thing that was fun to watch grow.
Yeah.
Because we started working on the songs, and you sort of started kind of talking about an idea of maybe throwing in like a little bit of this kind of thing, but it was a seed of an idea, and then we're working on the tunes in the studio, and I remember when he would make his way out of that music room and allow himself some daylight and stop listening to them, you'd get like I'm doing some cool shit with the audio clips. I think this is gonna be really cool.
Yeah.
And then eventually when we got to the point where you were actually putting them in, it was like, wow, okay, this is going somewhere else. Like, this is elevating it to a new thing. It wasn't just going into the studio and cranking out songs as good as you can. It was this added layer was coming to fruition, and it was awesome to just to hear you talk about it developing got me excited along the way. And then when it was all finally put together, it was awesome. And you could hear how genuine everybody is.
That's
It's
the
awesome.
biggest thing, man, the genuine.
Yeah, you could hear like the sighs and the pauses and the
Exactly.
it's neat.
Yeah.
And I guess this is a good time to talk. Like, you're gonna include those tomorrow night,
Yep.
which is crazy to think about.
It
Like
is
how
crazy.
you're gonna do that, but
It's a very crazy thought.
Yeah.
We were just talking about it. We went to the square to just kind of hang out and have a coffee. And I was just thinking, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be intense, We've been rehearsing for, I don't know, I'm trying to think how long we've been rehearsing that to the voice tracks playing. Everything else we're going to play, just us, But we just wanted to have those voice tracks, and there's like 2 little transitional spots that aren't us, but outside of that, it's just a normal band playing, but the voice is there. it's been, in the beginning when we first started, I think it was difficult because we were just trying to figure out what the hell we were doing because we never did anything like that before.
Right.
We're primarily all born out of like grunge or punk rock or rock music, you know. So at least for me, like my first my first intention or my first thing when I pick up a guitar is just to play it. So I don't even think about that side of things. You know, like, okay, well, we got to figure out how we're going to trigger these voices, or are we going to play to a click, or are we going to have it on a laptop, or are we going to have it all on an iPad, or how are we going to have it?
Yeah.
But the more we rehearsed, the easier it got, and the last couple of rehearsals have been really great. And more than anything, it just feels like the five of us are united and kind of proud as we're playing this. It feels like it feels important, even if it's not necessarily important. It feels that way to me. And again, might be a cliche, pretentious thing to say, but it feels very, I don't know, emotional, on some emotional level, feels important. So I think it'll be cool.
Let me mention the cover image too.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you could put it up on the screen there. It's kind of like a, driver's perspective, kind of looking down the road. At least that's how I interpret it. Why did you choose that image?
Well, initially I was just looking for something to have for the artwork, and I was just don't ever do this, but I was just driving down the Scranton Expressway, and it was really, really, really dark out, and I just snapped a bunch of photos, like driving, but just snapped them as quick as I could. And I saw that one, and I don't know why it resonated with me, but the more I think about it, I think it's like the absence of, there was that life that's behind you now, and now God knows where this goes, and it looks really dark and looks really scary, but it's there, and we have to go that way. So I think that's why it resonated so much with me, and why even I think I showed it to like one or two people who weren't so thrilled about it initially, and I still inside was like, no, that's the one. Yeah, it just feels right for those songs, So that's pretty much it.
Well, I mean, I think everybody gets that scary feeling driving down any road in Scranton.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no question, man.
Do I get the honors of cracking her open?
Yeah, this last one was sweeter than I thought it was going to be. The
Dos Equis.
This is good. This is
all
all
that
good.
was the
I've got a
Dos
buzz
Equis
going.
song.
Yeah.
Wow.
I never get
I
a
thought,
buzz
no,
going.
I thought it was
Like,
this one, the mango cart.
Right, so did I. I'm like, did I get the wrong one?
Golden Road Mango Cart.
Oh, shit.
Everybody.
Oh, now we're digging in the real good stuff. This is pretty good. This is the Dos Equis.
Yeah.
The special lager. It definitely has like a hint of like a citrus.
Sweet. Like it's just sweet.
Yeah. That's good.
This is all really good. I
Yes,
definitely have a
thank
little
you.
buzz. Thank you very much. I do. I'm a wuss. What you doing? What you
Spilling
doing?
the crowd.
Do we have any questions from you, the audience, there before we head out too? Bobby Keller says too many drum jokes.
Many drum jokes. No. This is good.
But he said he's really intrigued by this. He lost his father in his early 20s and can't wait to hear it. I'll probably cry. Yeah, it's a crier
It's
for
heavy.
sure.
It's heavy.
It's a tough album, but in a good way. It challenges you a little bit.
I heard something on the radio. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I
not
heard
at all.
something on the radio, and I really liked. I was just listening to some. I had my iPhone in. I was listening to music, and I pulled it out. Radio just kicked on, and some woman was on there just saying like, "Yeah, her music is beautiful." She says a lot of people say that her music makes people cry, but she likes to say that her music lets people cry. And I think that's like such a beautiful way of putting
Yeah,
something, and I hope that comes off that way. That's all. I just wanted to throw in my.
I was gonna hammer you because that wasn't obviously not Alt 92.
It was not. No, it was. But I wasn't listening to it. I just pulled out my phone jack and it
We
was
don't
just there.
have a female. So.
Maybe it was you in just a high pitched voice.
Could be.
But it was nice. What you said was very nice.
Oh God.
I want to mention too. There's a full I labeled it as an album review. It's technically not a review per se in a strict album review sense, but I figured that was kind of the quickest shorthand to fit it into a little headline for people to click. Dan Rosler, who's in Esta Coda and A Fire with Friends, and friends with you for a long time over the years.
Like my little brother.
Yeah, he did this incredibly in-depth interpretation of what he thinks the songs are about or what they mean to him, and some of the philosophy and stuff behind it. I'm like, this is deep. It took me a little while to edit it and really go through it, because I'm like, wow, this is not what we usually publish. Not to say that we don't publish intellectual stuff, but this stuff is like much deeper dive than you would get from a typical, arts and entertainment publication kind of thing. But I really liked what Dan did with it. How is it for you reading this? Are you looking at, because I think it's funny, like talking to bands about album reviews and stuff. A lot of times they're like, yeah, I don't know what this reviewer's talking about. Like, this is not remotely what I was writing about, but if that's what it means to them, then that's great or whatever. How did you, reading what he wrote about your album, how did it strike you, and what was your reaction to it?
Well, first off, when he first did that, what happened was I just randomly, right when we got the record done, I said, hey, I want to send this to you. He's like my best friend, essentially. I mean, we've been through so much shit together, like A Fire with Friends from back in the day. Like, we've been doing this. Even if we're not in the same band, we're always kind of in the same band together. I love that boy. So I sent him the digital master of it, and he just started sending me like, hey, this is what I wrote. And he had no intentions of this being like something anybody saw, and he just started kind of telling me like, this is what I think of your record. And I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. It's so great, and when I read everything, like in full, what he gave to you, I was just blown away that he was able to. There's a few very specific things. A lot of it I don't want to go super deep into. I like to leave a little bit of the mystery for people who listen to the record. But there's a lot of things where he hit stuff dead on that my intentions were. And there's a lot of things where it not necessarily wasn't my intention, but I'm so happy that that's the route that it led his like thoughts and feelings to go down. All of it is completely relative, though, to my experience and to my initial intentions. It's completely relative to it, and I think it's because we both share the bond of going through something like that,
Sure.
So I can't speak for him on his side of loss, but I know that everybody's affected just as much in different ways, and I think that the conclusions that he came to from the record are totally in line with my intentions. So,
And I felt too like, especially when we were talking initially about the song premiere and the album premiere and stuff like that. It took me right back to last summer when we did the She's the One weekend for Doreen show, which was so.
It was beautiful.
It was like
Absolutely
what a
beautiful.
crazy week. I mean, we still talk about it. And we have guests on the show, and we'll still bring it up and talk about it and that kind of thing. This almost feels like kind of like a chapter of that. Like that happened, and this is kind of like the prologue to it.
Yeah.
Like because that weekend I'm sure was very emotional for you. And your family and everything that you're going through. I obviously don't want to speak for you, but I think it meant a lot to everybody who has listened to your music over the years and stuff too, and wanted to kind of give back or do something special. That whole weekend of performances, all very different, but all very incredible. It was really good stuff.
It was beautiful, and I don't even know. Like, I still don't even really know what to say about all of that. It was super overwhelming when you look out and you see like over 100 people there who are just kind of holding you up in the time where you really, really need to be held up. You need somebody there to be like, no, we're with you. You know, like I don't know. I'm just a very lucky person that everybody that they did that. I'm very super, super lucky, and I don't take any of it for granted. It's death just is a shitty thing, because I just wish my mom could see how loved she was too in the room. it was amazing, absolutely amazing. And it was even the Melded set was, you know,
Yeah.
initially in my head I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But that ended up being one of the most beautiful things too. So it was really great, really great. Yeah.
Did you see any of that?
I unfortunately did not. I forget why. I remember because Jen was here with.
Yes,
To promote
Jen
it.
and Brad were
Brad,
here
yeah.
on the show to
And
talk about
I
it.
forget
Who
why.
I love very
yeah,
much.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forget why I
So
couldn't.
much.
make
I mean,
it.
for Jen to come out on camera, I'm like, she
amazing.
must love Ed to death.
I
Like,
love her.
there-
I love
to
her.
be on camera, knowing how Jen is.
Yeah.
Jen's everybody's
Yeah.
friend. She's amazing, but I know she does not like the spotlight.
No.
She doesn't really like the focus on her. So I mean, we try to keep the interview that way, but you're on camera.
Yeah,
like-
and it's I don't know. I just feel I'm just so lucky to have somebody like that, like put that much work. Like that was a lot of work. That was a lot of fucking work that they put into that, and it wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I'd
to a
imagine.
3-day thing, just for I don't know. I'm forever indebted to those people. They're two of my best friends, no question.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of like benefit shows. When you think about benefit shows, and it was just a completely different animal. It was
Yeah.
very, very different vibe and
Yeah.
everything. It was really
It was
interesting.
Crazy.
I also I want to before we get going too, I want to talk about your other projects and things that
Oh,
you do,
yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're out. You've done this for a while, but you have a lot of other stuff going on too. So we talk about those projects. a little bit.
Sure. So I also played a local guy named Dave Joyce. He was actually down in Philly for quite a while, for a few years. And Johnny, you've been playing his
It's a
latest
great song,
track.
yeah.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's an awesome song.
Oh, thank
It's an
you.
awesome song.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that one, taking his sound a little bit of a different direction.
I've been following him for a long time. I've known him since he was like a young kid.
Yeah.
I know his family.
Yeah.
And that's hands down the best thing in my opinion,
Oh,
that he's
thanks,
done.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so much fun to do. A little more like hard edge, kind of cranked it up a little bit. But I play with him still, play drums for him, and I have a cover band called the Jerks. We don't really play all that much these days, and this guy's keeping me busy.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
But it's something that's always there, and I have a couple of friends who, it's funny, it's like rolling the dice. If I get an opportunity to play something with that band, with the Jerks, I'll be like, all right, let me send out the text and see if these guys can do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm going to get back. And it's like, all right, cool, we're going to play a gig. It's been a year or whatever, and
Yeah.
so that's fun. For that, I play guitar and I sing. And Tony Giamuso, a really good friend, plays drums. My buddy Mike Sharkey plays bass for that group. So it's kind of a recycling of the Silent Treatment, which was a band I used to be in back in the day. And it's a lot of those guys. Another guy, Sam Shirelli from the Silent Treatment, he's been a jerk as well. So it's kind of like we all still hung out and jammed together, and we were like, why don't we, go out and do a cover band thing with this still?
That was a cool project too.
Yeah, Silent Treatment?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
it was.
fun. That was
Yeah.
fun, yeah. I actually just found some of the old stuff that we worked on recently, and it was fun to put it on and listen to it again. But yeah, I love that band. It was such a good project.
I
It was
played
a lot of
that
fun.
for the year anniversary of Alt Natives. I dug into like
Oh, yeah, that's right.
the music that kind of got me into the local scene, and I was
Yeah.
like listening to a lot of old stuff like Panacea and Less Than
That
One
was a
and-
trip down memory lane.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 2 years now, so I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do next for that. But maybe
That
something
was
similar.
so cool.
Yeah.
Because all those bands, it was like a bunch of them, when I was in the Silent Treatment at the time, a bunch of them, we had at some point shared a stage along,
Yeah.
along the road. So listening to that was like going into a time machine for
Yeah.
sure. It was cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
Lemon Jelly.
Lemon Jelly,
Yeah.
Awkward Silence,
Yeah.
Electric
which it
Candy
turns
Shop.
out was
Electric
that
Candy Shop, yeah.
was Steve Zampano part of that?
Awkward Silence.
Awkward Silence.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
like I didn't even know him.
Yeah.
Or like I just remember hearing the band. They were in the Weekender office for a thing we were doing, and I found out that he was in that when I played it. Like, I had no clue. Like, I
Yeah.
had no idea. But
It's funny, actually, Steve and I, the one night shortly after I joined the band, I think, and Steve and I were, started hanging out and got to know each other. And the one night we randomly started talking about, we were at Levels, and we were like, oh man, remember when this was Tinks? It was so cool. And we kept talking, and then it turns out we shared the stage at Tinks one night when he was in Awkward Silence and I was in Silent Treatment.
so
I'm like,
funny
dude,
how
I had
that
no
works
idea.
out.
Yeah.
So funny. How
And then
that
I ended
shit
up playing
works
bass
out.
for them for a little bit, for
Crazy.
Black Hole Heart.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's incestuous to bring
Big
it full
time.
circle.
Yeah, big time is.
Yeah, because tomorrow night will be a big circle of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, absolutely. I mean, everybody there has probably played in each other's band
Right.
at some point. I mean,
Yeah.
I could literally connect the dots between every single band if I wanted. If I wanted to really bore everybody watching. So, yeah.
And that's Esta Coda, Black Hole Heart, and Rosary Guild.
Yes.
Stage West this Saturday. Doors at 7:30.
Mm-hmm. Band's on. I think everybody will start at the Rosary Guild to start at 8:00.
Okay.
So it'll be Rosary Guild, Black Hole Heart, Esta Coda, then us. So.
And people who go can get a copy of the album as well.
Yep.
They'll get
Everybody through the door gets a free record, and if we run out, there'll be some sort of board or something there you could write your name on, and you will get a record. I'm just saying.
Join our
just
mailing
saying.
list.
Join our mailing
The
list.
official
today.
University Drive
That's
mailing.
right. Yep. So, yeah, it'll be cool. I think.
So yeah, you mentioned you're gonna play some of the clips during this and whatever. So are we playing through like the whole record pretty much, or any of the other stuff as well from the first album?
So the plan for tomorrow is the record in full. It's just from first song to the last song. Depending on how people are feeling, if everyone isn't just like we need to go home, Ed. We need to get out of here, Ed.
Yeah.
Then we will probably play one or two old ones just to end the night. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll just end with the last song on the record. We just want to make sure that everybody has a good time and that it's a really fun show. I really love every band on the bill. Really love every single band that's on that bill. So I don't know. I think we're gonna have a really good time though all together. So.
Agreed.
Double agreed.
It is a killer lineup.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I would go see, if we weren't on this show, I would go see this show.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's cool to have Stage West, behind that
great.
too. It's a cool little venue. I've seen a bunch of shows there now. It's definitely each venue kind of has a different experience,
Yep.
Different feel to it. Like
Absolutely.
the Key shows definitely have a different feel
Absolutely.
than other shows. So
And I can't
it's-
wait till we eventually get to the Keys. We have plans, I want to
Nice.
have a lot of plans. Yeah. But the Stage West is awesome, man. Like that place, they have great sound there. It's a nice big place, and I loved it when it was the Vault, and it's just a beautiful place to see bands. I played there not super recently, but I played there with No Memories, the Weezer tribute band. It was just such a really good, such a great experience. So I'm excited to go back.
Nice. Well, shall we close out then
Yeah.
with another song?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, cool.
We'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yes,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you for having
Thanks
us.
to Beer Boys. Thanks to
Absolutely.
The Spot. Thanks Cole Creative.
Thank you, Cole Creative.
Gracias.
Especially being here on a Friday night, It's,
Like,
cool.
get out of here. Get out.
All right, so for this one, Ed, you'll use your left hand, and I'll use my
Okay,
right.
there we go.
Oh, all right.
No, just kidding.
We'll get out of your way then.
This may be a little difficult, being that I've acquired a buzz, so bear with me.
It'll be better.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna try to get into it here. This is the first song or the second song on our record called "Please Release Me."
aid, your comfort. Greet me in a dream with smoke and rings and hummingbirds. Please stay with me. Have no words or voice left. Keep me in each burning melody until you're home. Please release me. Savior, sometimes say your goodbyes. As time stopped, as slow